The last 25 years, Hasan Davis has made a career, if you will, out of first-person interpretation of an individual who participated in the expedition, but who many times is forgotten. And yet, York, who he portrays, played a very integral role in the story of the expedition. And some of you may remember a gentleman by the name of Frank Walker several years ago who brought York to life through his poetry. Well, now Hasan Davis for many years has brought York to life as he would have been over 200 some years ago. I can never really say enough to do this man justice. He is incredible. I'm giving you a big build-up here, boss. But like I said, if you have not seen this presentation before, please listen carefully, let it soak in, and then like those of us who have been treated to hearing this wonderful man of the past, you will also see again why York occupies a high place in the story of the Lewis and Clark expedition. So with that,
the world almost 3 years. Thousands of miles away from civilization, lifetimes away from the madness them civilized men called slavery. There was me, a young Shoshone woman named Sakagawea, Captain Lewis, Captain Clark, and close to 36 what I'd call volunteer pages. Now, our mission seemed simple enough. All we had to do was cut a path through the savage Northwest Territories, all the way to the Pacific Ocean, cross 4,000 miles, the highest mountains and fastest rivers any American ever seen before. President Jefferson called us his men of discovery. And every day we live is the day we all prepare to die. Just by the will of the president, we left St. Louis a small army of men. 3 years later, returned more like a band of brothers. Now one day went by, every man wasn't tested past his limits. Only survived that kind of pain if every man willing to give what the one beside him need to stay alive. Well, one of us said in Harlem's talk around camp was, if our luck didn't change, might be looking at starvation soon. One day Captain Lewis calls me up, says, "Yo, I want you to go out there and try your gift for hunting, see what relief you can bring to us." Now I took that request just like an order. Gathered up my rifle, started out early. Only gone about an hour or so before coming across some fresh tracks. Looked kind of like bear tracks to me. Now I don't know how many of y'all have tried bringing down a bear before, so let me just tell you. Anything a man goes to with half a heart, anything a man goes to with a whole mind, either you're asking me. But we was desperate. Now I was determined to show Captain Lewis his faith in me was well placed. I figured, since the wind was blowing in my face, been doing so all morning, I might follow these tracks out of ways. I'd obey even knowing I was coming. If I was to catch up to him, we just have to see what was what. So I followed them tracks out a mile or so, come over a hill, and there he was, way off in the distance, a slow-moving giant of a bear. But by that time, I already made up my mind, and folks would know, tell you, once York make up his mind, ain't nothing in this world said to change it. I found a good-sized tree, laid out my shot and powder, and I showed him a rifle. Now I was adjusting for the long range of the shot. About to pull up a little more, count for the wind been blowing my face all morning. About that time I realized, wind wasn't blowing my face no more, mostly kind of old bear, throwing his nose in the air, letting out a growl that shook the tree beside me. I know my time for thinking was done. Boom! That first shot fell between the shoulders. Old bear let out a growl, spun on his hinds, come charging back at me, all claws and fangs. So I ducked back behind the tree and started doing a little praying the whole time. They make my first mistake with a rifle. It's going to be my last mistake with a rifle right there. Seemed like it took me about an hour to get that next shot loaded. The whole time, I can't hear nothing because it sounded like my heart beating so loud, like drums pounding my ears. Somehow I got that next shot loaded. Come around the tree, I was pulling the trigger before I even sighted up. Boom! That second shot hit him in the arm. Didn't even slow him down. I know there wasn't going to be no third shot, so I lowered my rifle, stepped out of the smoke to the right side of the tree, and I pulled my axe and my knife, and I waited for him. Well, see, I waited because it don't make no sense of man trying to outrun a wounded, angry bear. All it's going to do is get you cut down from behind. I figured my best chance, maybe my onlyest chance, to stand my ground and face him like a man. So I waited for him. Said a quick prayer from wife and family back in Louisville. I said 2, maybe 3 longer prayers for myself, mind you. And then I waited. Boom, boom! About that time, a double report come from my left side. Turns out Captain Clark sent a couple reports to check on my success, and I was so glad he did. Both shots caught old Bass square in the chest, and by that time, must be nothing but pain and rage from that great big body of his that finally got out on him. Less than 10 paces, I stood waiting. Took a few seconds to gather my wits. I thanked the boys for the good timing. I thanked them again for the better shooting. And we set to skinning and cleaning as much of that bear as we could, as fast as we could, because all that smoke and noise, with all that blood, we feared the wolves might be coming. That'd be the last place man wants to be when the wolves show. So we pack as much meat as we can carry and head for camp. Arrived like conquering heroes. And that night we feasted like kings. And the laughter absent from our fires for weeks slowly returned as hard, cold men began to speak more fondly of home and family and dreams. And that night, thousands of miles away from this civilization on hard, cold ground, I slept the sleep of the dead. I dreamed my wife and family back in Louisville. Prayed to God. I says, can't you? I said, please, can't you just let me see her face again one more time, these old eyes of mine, before you go tear me out of this here world of yours? My name is York. Just York. It is the name my daddy carried before me. I was born a slave. No, I was born to be a slave, to be the property of another man, and that is a shame my daddy carried before me, but I have seen the world few white men might ever dream. I have climbed the top of snow-capped mountains, swum rivers so swift that the buffalo lose their foot, watched whales dance across the cool waters of two oceans, and I have walked amongst the people. Those Americans you call Indian have welcomed me into their land with open arms, like some long-lost brother. And now I ask you to hear the things that I have seen. So when I am gone from here, my name, my voice, my story does not die here with me, for that is the way of the people. It is the only thing I have left to give. Now, the hardest part for me was always the not knowing. See, many a time before, Master Clark and I would go on adventures, sometimes leaving home for months at a stretch, always understanding we'd be coming back. Once we sailed from New Orleans all the way around New England. It took us 9 months at sea. As soon as we touched ground, we rode off for home. There's something different about this mission of discovery. Everybody talking about where we going and what we doing. Ain't nobody said a word about when we coming home. That concerned me. That and the fact, but nobody ever asked if I wanted to be part of the President's Men of Discovery. If I wanted to lay my life down for this nation here, because I was just a slave. Funny thing is, if I was a free man, I could not have volunteered to lay my life down for the president, but since I'm just another man's slave, I never even thought to ask. Now, once we cross over the Missouri River, for me, it's like crossing the River Jordan. Found myself the other side of changed man. See, the Indians we met, many had seen or at least heard of a white man before. They ain't seen nobody like me. Started to give me names like Big Medicine or Black Indian. Some even said that I was a gift straight from God. I kind of like the way the Indians was thinking out there. Now, we set our second winter camp at the Mandan village. We called it Fort Mandan. Before we met Sakagawea and her husband Charbonneau. Now, mind you, we called him her husband. But all told, heard how this young Indian girl was told from her family she was a child. How this old Frenchman Charbonneau bought her in trade from the Hidatsa Indians, decided to make her his wife. Maybe that's why we so close, me and her. I mean, she the only one out there know like I know it means to be called the property of another man and all. She was great with child, we met her. Give birth to little Pompey over the winter. I sit outside the lodge, waiting for him to come to the world. When I hear him crying, I told Captain Clark, I said, well, Captain Clark, now as long as that girl and that baby with us, you ain't got to worry for them. Everything it takes to keep them safe, sir, I'm prepared to give it, even if that costs my life. And as sure as I'm standing here today, you best believe I kept them safe. Now that same winter, we met old One-Eye, chief of the Hidatsa Indians, refused to come visit for a long time. Kind of the Hidatsa Indians had supported the British during that revolution of the war. We know how that turned out for him. But anyway, they say that word of the black man finally got to old one. Now he couldn't take it no more. Had to come see what everybody else been talking about. So he come before demanding to see me. Well, I stood there before him, and the first thing he did was to lick his thumb good. He started to rub as hard as he could, thinking he might take the black right off this man. He said he was afraid it might be another trick by the white man, had to be sure. But when it didn't come off, that's when he started to look at me different. Like I am somebody special. Then I did what I always did with a new chief of tribe. I stripped my shirt down bare, and I stood there before him, arms out far as I could hold them. I let two, sometimes I let three Indian warriors get up in each hand, and I stepped back and people up till all their feet was off the ground. And let me tell you something. Well, they ain't never seen a man that powerful before. They said a man like that. They said this black man right here had to be touched by God. Captain Clark was quick to agree with him. He says, well, surely I ought to respect a man with that kind of power, he says. But if you respect this man, then you must respect the white man, because for the white man coming along, his king, they were nothing but savage animals. And the white man captured him. And the white man tamed him. The white man made him a slave. You're going to respect all of that power, and you should. Ain't you got to respect the man can take that kind of power and make a slave? And then, sometimes Captain Lewis might fire the air gun once or twice to get all the attention back. Let's say try to explain to them Indians how they're going to be part of a new tribe now called the United States. How they have a new chief and great father now we call president. Have a duty now, protect the president, warriors, or suffer dearly for it. Now, I don't know how many times I heard them tell one chief or another tribe that story before I understood they were saying. They was telling them Indians they get to be American. They're not like y'all American. They just get to be more colored American. By my figuring, the misery I call life ain't got room for more souls. I wish I could have made myself so ferocious I could have scared them all away, or at least warned them, but I don't speak the languages. Besides, who am I? York, slave of Master William Clark. So sometimes I just excuse myself from the lodge. Go out into the cold night air. Little Indian children always follow right behind. Say they know that a gift like this can't stay one place forever. So they're going to be close as they can until God decides to send him on his way. And sometime I ask God, one day he might forgive this man what he couldn't do for them innocent children. We stayed with the man down to the geese been flying north about 3 weeks. Once the ice started to break on the lakes, the captain said it's time for us to make our push for the Rock Mountain. Now the man didn't say, any man got hope making them mountain need 3 things: good horses, better supplies, and a man that knows the way. They say the Shoshone Indians best place for all 3. So our mission changed. Before we can go to the mountain, we got to find the Shoshone Indians. We got to find the Snake people. Now, for the next few weeks moving upriver, we had no contact at all. Finally, Captain Clark says, well, maybe a small detail of men working in from the water have better luck. When he called the name of the field that accompanied him, you best believe my name was on that list, because he knew what the step he could take I wasn't prepared to follow. So we walked 5 days, almost 75 miles. By the end of it, boots were torn through and our feet bloody. Had to stop and wait for the others to catch up. When they did, well, Captain Lewis drew a fresh detail of men and they proceeded on. A few days later, we got word they finally met up with the Shoshone. We didn't get there fast as we came. There's a lot of concern, a lot of agitation. This many armed white men so far in the Indian country making everybody nervous. Now they told him we was traveling with an Indian girl and her baby, and that's him that he's son. Figured no self-respecting man gonna go to war, but not with women and children. But they say word of the black man already made himself upriver. They all just standing around waiting to see what everybody else been talking about. So when I step out the boat, they gather around me. Then Captain Lewis calls Chicago Wheel to translate words since she speaks the language and all that hand talking drew y'all so good. And now that's when we got our real surprise. Remember I told y'all this girl stole her family when she was young? His old Frenchman Charbonneau bought her and traded the Hidatsa, making his wife. But she says she don't remember much about being a child. Well, she do remember her big brother. His name, Kamehameha. Now it turns out, the man these Shoshone called chief now carry that same name. Without even trying to, we found a way to bring a family back together. I don't know about where you come from, but in my life, ever the change of slavery, tear a family apart, and nothing short of dying going to make it whole. This was God working. Made it easy to trade for supplies and horses. Kamehameha was so pleased, he gave us his best tracker. Oh man, he said, no, them mountains like nobody living. Now the old man's name was awful hard to pronounce. Cap Lewis says, because civilized tongues, women speak such savage words. Just call that old man Toby, be done with it, he said. Now I was of the mind. See, I figured, any man gonna look at the mountains I'm looking at right here and make a solid promise, keep me alive on the other side. I said, a man like that ought to be called, ever in the world he tell you to call him. But nobody asked what I was thinking. Now I went up for volunteering that. So old Toby listened to the Bitterroot. Before we got in good, we come across the Flathead Indians. It's like all the others we messed up, maybe more so come to me. See, the Flathead tell us in their tribe, when a man goes off to war and he is brave, when a man goes to battle and he is strong, the greatest warrior on the field, they say that is the only man that earned the right to paint his skin black with the coals from the war fire. So when he come back to the tribe, everybody knows without asking which man among them was the greatest warrior, which man was the strongest, which man had been touched by God that day. So them Flathead figure, if God ever made up his mind to take a man and paint him black like that for good, then ain't that got to be a great man? I sure like the way the Flathead was thinking. But we only stayed with him a short time on account of this here mountain. Now, if I was to never see another mountain the day I died, it'd still be about 10 days too soon for me. So all I can tell you about the mountain we're looking at here, there ain't no way we make it out the other side alive. Going to serve as a grave marker for the president's men of discovery. I wasn't the only one thinking it, but we couldn't turn back. We had our mission from the President of the United States to either succeed or we perish in the attempt. So we pushed on to the Bitterroot. Once we got in good, storm come out of nowhere, dropped 10 hard inches of snow. Lost our path, started throwing packs and losing animals. It got so bad, we put down 2 colts. Shot them dead, ate them whole. But there was no doubt we were dying. Finally, Captain Clark says, well, maybe a small detail of men push hard as they can against the mountain, break away to the other side, gather what they can gather, come back for the rest. And it might be our only chance, he said. And he called the name of the 5 or 6 men he counted for this most important mission. You best believe my name was on that list because he knew. Only way we ain't breaking this mountain, this heart of mine started beating against them rocks. So we pushed hard against that mountain and finally break away to the other side and the Nez Perce Indians. They was kind enough to trade us for root, berries, and salmon. We got everything we can carry and went back in for our friends. Once we make it out the other side, stayed with the Nez Perce several weeks. Took a few days just to feel the bones in our bodies again. We so cold. While we healed up, made new canoes. See, the Indians taught us how to fire boats out. Always before you want a canoe, you take the tree trunk, you put the axe to it, you carve yourself a boat. But they taught us how to fire. Take that same trunk, you lay red hot coals across it, and you burn away one layer at a time. So when you're done, you got a boat run smooth in the water. Ain't got no leaks. You got a good craft. The Indians taught us that and a lot more to keep us alive out there. Once we all healed up, the captain said it's time for us to make our run for the ocean. We left our horses and a few supplies with the Nez Perce on the promise of returning, and we proceeded on. Next few months was much of the same. New chiefs, new tribes. Tell them about the United States. Tell them about the president. And Captain Clark even named a group of islands after me. He called them York's 8 Islands. Ain't that got a good sound to it? And then one day we coming down to Columbia. The captain started to shout, Ocean! Ocean in view, ocean! We had made it to the Pacific Ocean. 4,000 miles of high mountains and fast rivers, all that way, all that suffering and pain. You know we only lost one man. He was a good man. His name was Sergeant Charles Floyd. Come to us up out of Kentucky. Growing up in Louisville, but his family figured the God they know and love ain't never intended one man owning the soul of another man. Don't want a part of a state going to make that the law, so they moved across the river to Indiana. Free country. I was with Sergeant Floyd when he died. I did all I could to make him comfortable, and I sat and I cried with him. Well, I cried for all the folk might never know one true God-loving soul, kind of him early passing this world. But we made it to the ocean, so we had reason to celebrate. Now, the first order of business at Station Camp was to set our last winter fort. And the captain decided they're going to put it to a vote which side of the river we're going to set on. One being good for building, the other good for hunting and supplies. And we went around one man after the other saying what he thought it ought to be. And then it gets to me. And everybody looking like I'm supposed to say something here. Now, y'all know better than I, the law of this nation said Negro man ain't got the right, not under the Constitution, not under God, to put his word upside a white man. Captain Clark said, he said, it took every man, his blood, his sweat, his whole heart to get us this far on the most important mission for a nation of men. The way I see it, he says, means every man would earn the right to say where we go from here. The time has come for you to vote. So I voted. Right there beside all them white men, I put my word up and it counted for something. Now some say, maybe that make me the first Negro man in this whole country vote legal side of white men. I don't know if that's true. But I know it felt good. It sure felt right. So we decided to settle the south side of the river and set the building Fort Clatsop. For the next few days, I was putting my back into it. Sometimes I'm hauling trees as big around as my body all by myself. Want to show all them men how much I deserved that boat. Couldn't leave no room for questions. Captain Clark says I was working so hard I fatigued my body. Was laid up a few days, but I made my point. Once camp was set, we started making regular journeys down to the ocean. Sometimes just to bring water back to boil down for salt. And something to put on awful food we've been eating for 3 years. And some days I just sit at that water for hours and watch the whales. Y'all never seen a whale before. Well, have you? The way you move across the water so smooth you can hardly see him there. You'll bring that great big body all the way out. You can see just how great he is before he dives down. This be all together. I sit at that water for hours watching them whales. Trying to imagine in my head and my heart what it'd be like if a man carried that kind of freedom. Man could run as far as he want to run. And nobody tell him it's time to come back or you ain't got a right to be there. Just because of the color of your skin. I couldn't even imagine what that kind of freedom looked like. One day, Captain Clark, he come through. He said, yup. It's about time for us to put our mind back on civilization. Our mission for the present is complete, a success. We'll be going home soon. Now, mind you, them the words I've been waiting to hear since before we left St. Louis. Me, the only man out here away from the world, got a wife and family back home. Maybe give them up for dead. I couldn't wait to get home. One night, Captain Lewis called us around the fire. Say he'd been thinking about what he might tell the President of these United States about his brave men of discovery. About these men that sacrificed more than any patriot or volunteer's nation. About these heroes who made the president's dream come alive. And he starts to call out the names one after the other, like he might present to the president. After every name, there'd be a whoop here, holler over there. And of course, I started up with the fiddle. We was having ourselves a good time. We was having so much fun. They was having so much fun. I don't think anybody even noticed. Except me, maybe. Didn't seem like nobody noticed. Time we finished listing out the name of the brave men, sacrificed more than any patriot or volunteers nation. Time we finished listing out the name of them heroes, make the president's dream come alive. But you know, my name wasn't on that list. Maybe that's when it comes clear what it is Captain Clark was saying. He said, yo, it's time for us to put our mind back on civilization. He's saying, Yo, it's time for us to put our mind back on walking 3 steps behind, not looking white man in the eyes as you pass him on the road. Yo, it's time for us to put our mind back on not speaking as somebody commands you to speak. It's time to put your mind back in change, boy. Because we are going home. Back to civilization. For sure. Folk ask me all the time, it's, well, if you had it so good out there, them Indians treating you like God and everything, why would a man come back to living like this? Well, I have my reasons. My wife, my life. See, man can't run away pretending he's free. He ain't got the ones he loves beside him, because that ain't no freedom. Besides, all them children need to know what it was I seen out there. Need to know there's a place in this country, people see you coming, they don't run you off to the corner, they don't spit on you. Instead, they ask you to come and sit down right beside them. They ask you to share the food right off their plate because it means they've been blessed by God. I figure if I didn't tell them, they might never know they were more than slaves. So I had to come back. Besides, I think it's only a matter of time. Us getting back to civilization, me gaining my own freedom. See, before we left on this mission for the president, Master Clark Freed Ben went on and on about, seeing as how servitude for life is against God's will and the natural order of mankind itself, I'll be giving Ben his freedom for faithful service in my house, my kid. Ben's a good boy. Been with us a while. But he ain't like me. I've been with Master Clark my whole life. More than 30 years, I just stood right by his side out one day of failing. I think after the last 3 years we didn't have. All we got to do is make it home, and he's going to make me a free man, so I couldn't wait to get home. Moving back upriver, making such a good time like we walking on water. Every tribe we get to, we trade more boats for horses the faster we could go. Time we get to the Nez Perce, Captain Lewis orders trade everything we don't need to survive for root. I don't know if y'all ever had root before. Ain't the best tasting thing in the world. Might be the worst thing I put in my mouth. That's saying a lot after horse and dog and all that, but we know to keep a man alive. And all we got to do is survive this here mountain one more time and we're going home. Captain Lewis even cut the buttons off his uniform and give him the meat to trade. All told, we come back with 20 bushels of root. More than any man ever won't eat his whole life. And once we clear that mountain, back past the Shoshone and the Arikara, the Mandan, the Hidatsa, the Sioux, all the way back into St. Louis. Time we get there, it looked like a parade had started up. Folk lined the road as far as I could see. Most of them give us up for dead years ago. For a few days, they stopped me on the road, asked me about the president's mission of discovery, about the great Indians we met, about the things we seen. Then I went back to my duties. I tried to smile. I tried to not look a white man in the eyes and pass him on the road, but it was so hard to lower my head again. Finally, it's time to go on to Washington City to report to the president. And every man got 320 acres of good farmland for his hard work. Every man double duty pay in gold coin for his sacrifice. Every man the appreciation of an entire nation making the president's dream come alive. I was down in slave quarters waiting to be called before the president. His call never came. For a long time to go on home. Master Clark said he'd been promoted to general. Chief Indian agent for the entire nation say carry out his duties, going to be moving to St. Louis permanent. Say he can't see himself going about new service in a strange land, out his most prized possession, out his favorite man right there beside him. So I asked him, I said, well, Master Clark, if we move to St. Louis for good, then what about my wife? What about my family? He answered my question with a question. What about him? He says. I didn't give you a lawful order. I expect you to follow without question. He said. There's plenty of slaves in St. Louis. I'll find you a new wife there. I order you to be done with this wife of yours. Now, I couldn't believe them words coming out of his mouth like that. All the time we out there away from the world, him going on and on about Miss Julia Hancock of Virginia, how he can't wait to get back to his civilization and take her hand. Can't see himself growing old out the woman he loved right there beside him. So I thought that when he knew how a man needs somebody he can run home to when the world been standing on his back all day. A shoulder he can crown if he got to. Somebody tell him, as long as you know somebody love you, tomorrow got to be better than today. I thought he knew what it was for a man to give his heart away. And then he ordered me to be done with my wife like she's some stray dog I found on the side of the road. So we get home and I packed the house. Master Clark went by boat and I led the slaves and wagons overland to St. Louis. When I got there, I went to Master Clark. I said, Master Clark, it seems to me you got lots of business interests still to tend to in Louisville. Since I took care of your business most of our life together, I reckon I'm the best man for that job. You could send me on back to Louisville, handle your business, put me right close to my family. Now he said, you see what I'm getting at. Ain't gonna stand for much of that talk for me, but he'd allow me back to Louisville 4 or 5 weeks to finish up his business, sell his boat for St. Louis. When you return, he says, I expect you to be done with that wife of yours, set to get back to your duties as an obedient slave in my house. 4 or 5 weeks for a man just throw his heart away. Well, about 5 months later, he sent word to his brother. I must have misunderstood his orders. I've been gone about 4 months too long. Well, some of you know about that. Wasn't a lot of misunderstanding. Sometime, man got to do what's right by him and his God instead of what another man tell him. But I knew if I didn't sell that boat directly, it had to be the devil to play. Sure, Master told me before, he showed me what it's like to be a real slave. Say, he sent me down to New Orleans. They say you find yourself a slave down in New Orleans, you ain't never going to see nothing you love again the rest of your short, painful life. There are ways down there, grinding a man's bones into the earth, crushing his soul. I done seen it. Ain't no place a man want to be. So I knew I had to sail before I push off. It's my wife. She come down the water to see me. She said, the man she called Master done decided to move his house further south in the slave country. She said, well, if you plan on sending that boat back to St. Louis, I reckon you best turn on around. Turn around, y'all can take one last long look at your wife, because chances is you ain't never going to see this face of mine again. Now, and them 3 words almost did what the hardest years of my life couldn't do. Almost stopped this heart of mine beating dead in my chest, but I knew if I did not sail, I was going to lose everything I ever loved. I didn't have a choice. Slaves don't have choices. So I sailed. But by the time I got to St. Louis, I made up my mind, and folks in there will tell you, once York makes up his mind, ain't nothing in this world set to change it. I went back to Master Clark. I said, Master Clark, since we've been together our whole life, me and you side by side, more than 30 years out one day failing, we was little boys used to wrestle together. Hunt, fish, ride horses all day long up and down the rivers. When we was older, I went about my duties with respect. You never have to question my loyalty to you or your kin. If you fell down, I picked you up. If you were sick, I made you better. Somebody was a threat in your life. Don't you know I would slay a man with these bare hands? Or lay my own life down to see you 1 second safe. And for 3 years, me and you stood side by side against the world. And I didn't get 1 acre good farmland for it. And nobody dropped 1 gold coin in my pocket. President Thomas Jefferson still don't know my name. Master Clark, Billy, you're the only man in the world with power to give me what I need right now. Make me a free man, Billy. Save my family. You know, I thought Master Clark might hurt himself. Oh, he laughing at what I got to say. He said he think it funny. Me thinking any service I've rendered my whole life more than 30 years by his side is more what a slave does for his rightful master under God. Said if he was ever to see such a men servant, he would reward, but it ain't come yet. Besides, he said, you are much too valuable piece of property for a man just let go like that. That's what he said. Much too valuable piece of property for a man to let go. So I think if it's about my value, sure I can do something about that. I started to agitate, doing things just enough wrong. He knows about my choosing. And he said he ain't gonna stand for much of it. Mind you, I try to smile. I try to not look a white man in the eyes as I pass him on the road, but I cannot lower my head again. So Master Clark had me strapped to the post, and he paid a man good money to beat me until I could not see. And after I healed up, I tried not speaking unless somebody commanded me to speak, but I can't hold my tongue no longer. So Master Clark had me locked in the jailhouse. 30 days in that jailhouse, every one of them days worse than that beating I took. Somewhere in all that, maybe he think whatever broke in me sure wasn't getting fixed fast enough. So he decided to go on and send me back to Louisville. I don't know what the letter read he sent on to his brother, since I can't read like that, but I've been guessing at it. I figured maybe that letter says it's time for York to know what it is to be a real slave. Time for York to know what it is to have a severe master, know how good his life has been till now. See, I think that's what that letter read, because that's the lesson his brother set to teaching me. They hired me out to a man, dressed me in rags, and tossed me in the field. Tried a big old bull plow across my back. For 2 years, that old man tried to grind my bones into the earth. For 2 years, I ain't heard one word from Master Clark. Finally, news come through his nephew, and decided to go and give me my freedom. Only been 10, 11 years, maybe, since we come back on this mission for the president. Most slaves my age don't ever see freedom. Everything I'm fighting to be a free man for is out of my hands now. My wife, my whole life is gone. Master Clark sent me from Drive's business, running freight from Richmond, Kentucky to Nashville, Tennessee. The folk ask all the time, what sense to make a free man ride headlong to the slave south trying to do business? I had my reasons. I figured somewhere along them roads, somebody had seen or telling their families holding my life. All I need is direction. If this business of mine is worth anything, man might have enough gold in his pocket one day to buy his own hardback. There's things they don't tell you about the slave South. How they got these laws say a free man ain't got the right to associate with slaves, kind of maybe tell them that slave was like to be free. They might get a sense they deserve that same thing. Punishment being 90 lashes in jail if you're a lucky one. And there's folks you meet on the road seem nice enough, offer you a warm fire and a good meal, but plenty of stories how a man might lay his head down free, wake up in chains, because without them freedom papers you keep right next to your heart, you ain't nothing but a runaway with a good story. So I couldn't be with my own, couldn't trust nobody else. Business wasn't doing too good. Guess it didn't make sense. White man hiring somebody like me ain't good slaves, see that kind of thing going on. And them that did hire didn't always pay. Because the law say a Negro man ain't got the right or the Constitution of God to go into court and swear out against the white man, even if his life depended on it. My horses were dying. Sure they's been poisoned. Finally got so bad, I had to hire myself back into hard labor. I signed a 1-year contract, back-breaking labor, but I'm done with it now and I ain't never going back again. Sure, I know some things now. Sure I know. That I'm never going to see my wife again. Except every night when I close my eyes, and she right there telling me, as long as you know somebody love you, y'all, tomorrow got to be better than the day. And God sure gonna take care of his children. But I am not ready to die yet. And I know now that a man cannot live like this, so I come up with another plan. I think if I can make it back out to the Missouri and up the Indian country, things might be different. If somewhere out there, a man can walk down the road and people ask you to stop and talk a while. Little children ask you to throw them into the air and catch them with your strong hands because it means they have been touched by God. Maybe somewhere out there a man could live. Or maybe a man could just die like a man. And I aim to find that place, so I expect to perish in the attempt. Now, before I go, I was hoping y'all could do me a favor. If yours is mine, the way I see it, one day somebody might ask you what you know of Captain Lewis and Captain Clark, of the President's Men of Discovery, and you could tell them that you know a man with skin as dark as night, that you know a black man who walked stride for stride, who suffered pain for pain with the greatest heroes this nation might ever know. You tell them that my name is York. Just York. It is a name my daddy carried before me, and although I was born into change, you tell them that I'm not now. No. You tell them that I have never been the property of another man. And I ask you this so that when I am gone from here, my name, my voice, my story does not die here with me, for that is the way of the people. The sad truth is, these few words are the only things of value I have left to give. Well, now, the sun has started to set, and my new journey must begin. Godspeed.